Agnes's fingers ached from polishing the same silver goblet for the third time. Outside Blackwood Manor's great hall, midsummer had spilled into the village like spilled wine, bright, fragrant, and utterly forbidden. Laughter, fiddles, and the scent of roasting lamb drifted through the open shutters, tugging at her like a child's insistent hand. At 20, dressed in her one decent gown of faded light blue wool, Agnes felt less like a young woman and more like a ghost haunting her own life. Guest chambers must be flawless, Lady Eleanor had snapped that morning, her eyes shadowed with strain. Lord and Lady Devereux arrived tomorrow, and the estate's fragile future depended on their favor. Agnes had nodded silently, her back already stiff from hours folding linens. Thomas, the stable boy, had warned her in the courtyard, "Don't even think it, Agnes. Her ladyship's got the look of a storm. Festivals for villagers, not us." But when sent to the kitchen garden for Rosemary, Agnes passed the manor wall and glimpsed the green. There it was, the maypole ribbons fluttering, children dancing, the great bonfire stacked high. A girl her age tossed a blue cornflower into the air, laughing as it landed in her hair. Agnes's heart hammered. "Just 5 minutes," she bargained. "I'll be back before the rosemary wilts." She slipped through the gate. For a breathless moment, the world was magic. She bought a honey cake, its sweetness thick on her tongue. She watched the dancers, felt the music thrum through her bones, loosening the knots of servitude. On impulse, she picked up the fallen cornflower and tucked it behind her ear, her dress and the bloom a quiet echo of stolen joy. Then she saw Master Croft, the steward, pushing through the crowd. His eyes locked onto her light blue dress, the mark of Blackwood's maids. Panic seized her. Before she could flee, his iron grip clamped her wrist. "Thought you'd play the lady," he hissed, dragging her away from the music, the warmth, the light. "Guest linens unwashed. Silver untouched. And you're gaddying about like a milkmaid?" The walk back was a funeral march. The vibrant sounds faded, replaced by the crunch of gravel and the thudding of her heart. Lady Eleanor stood rigid in the solar, her face pale as parchment. Behind her, the guest chamber yawned open, rumpled sheets, unirond linens. "Agnes," she said, voice colder than the silver Agnes had neglected. "Explain." "I only wanted to see the fire, my lady," Agnes whispered. "Just for a moment." "A moment?" Lady Eleanor's voice cracked like ice. "While the estate's fate hangs in the balance? Your place is here. Your duty is clear. Yet you chose petals." Her eyes flicked to the cornflower trembling in Agnes's hair. She turned to Croft. "The cane. Now." Agnes knew the ritual. She bent over the oak bench, her light blue dress pulled taut. The first stroke stole her breath, a searing line of fire. The second made her cry out. The third, fourth, fifth, each one a brand of shame. She bit her lip until she tasted blood, tears soaking the floorboards. When it ended, she lay gasping, the cornflower crushed beneath her. Lady Eleanor knelt, not with comfort, but with weary intensity. Her voice dropped, raw and low. "Do you think I do not hear that music? Smell those cakes?" She gestured toward the window, hand trembling. "My father died last winter. The harvest failed. The Devereux alliance is all that keeps these villagers from starvation. My duty chains me tighter than any dungeon. Your duty to me is the thread holding this world together. Your moment, it wasn't just disobedience. It was a risk I cannot afford." The word struck deeper than the cane. Agnes looked up, truly saw her mistress not as a tyrant, but as a woman bowed under a weight she'd never imagined. That night, alone in her attic room, Agnes pressed a hand to her throbbing back. Outside, the village cheered as the midsummer bonfire roared to life, painting the sky orange. The joy felt distant now, like a story about someone else. She took the crushed cornflower and placed it on the windowsill, where dawn would dry it into a fragile memory. At first light, stiff and sore, Agnes rose. She stoked the guest hearth, filled the wash basin, and began ironing the Devereux linens with meticulous care. The silver goblets gleamed under her cloth, reflecting the pale sun. She didn't look toward the village green, she was still a maid. still bound. But as she worked, her movements were steady, her gaze clear. She understood now, freedom wasn't found in stolen moments, but in the quiet strength of bearing one's burden well. And sometimes, the heaviest chains were worn by those who seemed to hold the keys. The dried cornflower caught the morning light, a tiny, stubborn blue against the gray stone. Not a symbol of joy lost, but of the price of understanding.